Welcome. My name is Dwight Drummond, and this is Advance Amplify Virtual Interview Series. Advance acknowledges that we, in Toronto, where this organization was founded, are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Advance was formed to develop an infrastructure for the betterment, upliftment, and retention of Black people in the Canadian music business. The Amplify series highlights exceptional Black professionals in the Canadian music industry and shares their stories and experiences. Our goal is for you to leave with a greater appreciation for our guests because each individual has made a significant difference. And I would like to now introduce you to Mr. Tony Young, also known as Master T. Welcome, T.
What's up, Dwight? You good?
As we would usually say, Wagwan, my brother.
Well, say everything nice.
Nice to see you, sir. Nice to see you. This is really special for me. I get to do a lot of interviews through my work, but it's not often I get to interview somebody that I consider a mentor in this business. Somebody, when I first walked into my first real job at a station, was already there. And him and his brother Basil were two of the people who kind of took me under their wings, along with other young men and women. As we could say, BIPOC, that's what they call us now, who were coming into that building and kind of looked up to these two gentlemen who are already there and established to try to guide us through. We want to talk about your journey, T, right? Right from London to Kitchener to Toronto, we want to take the journey with you, what brought you to this music thing, and also maybe give people who don't know, who weren't around at that time, what a special time it was in music, especially for Black music in this country, and how, your contributions at the time were just unmatched. You were the go-to guy in this country for many of us when we wanted to see our favorite artists. Let's start with when you moved from London to Canada. Did you know at that point that you might have a future career in broadcasting?
Well, I got to correct Dwight Drummond. My bad. I actually moved I was born in Leeds, England, which is north of London. Which okay, it's all right.
I apologize. We know that you're very specific about where you're from, so I don't want to mess that up. Yes, London. It's like people say they're from Toronto, but they're really from Mississauga. We don't want to get it twisted.
You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Leeds.
Because I'm still a Leeds United fan because they are in the Barclay Premier Division now. Anyway, so. Did I ever think? No, I really didn't. Because when I came to Canada, in 74. And at the time I was leaving, I've told this story before, but I was, I went to try out for the, I was going to get to try out for the Leeds United youth, their farm team. So, so I was playing soccer at a high level. And so I was pissed about coming here because to me that was it. Like, it was all about football. That was my ticket. So so I wasn't very happy about coming here, and I really didn't see music. I didn't see any of those things. I just thought about what I was leaving, and I've been there as a teenager. I was like 13. Coming to a brand new country and new land. Thank goodness for Uncle Rupi and Aunt Sis for sponsoring us. We got sponsored here, and my brother and I, my mom. So it was all new. It was everything to me as a young teenager that I was just starting out fresh. I was starting out in a new land, and I wasn't particularly happy about it. So music for me was far off. I mean, I had music entrenched from my pops, who was just an avid music, like a lot of West Indian pops. He had his little stereo and played his reggae music, played his
Sunday afternoons and just the house,
and a lot of jazz music. So, so I didn't realize at the time I was taking in all that music as well as going to, the traditional, what? The Lewises are having a basement party. Oh man, which I was so excited, like a 7-8-year-old kid.
I love those basement parties. The smell of curry gold cooking, man. I'm
telling you, I got my little plate, popped in your seats in the ride and
Yes.
just watching everybody, and my
watching
dad,
them dance. Yeah.
you know what I mean? My dad would go, "Hey, want some Guinness?" "Yo, sure, pop." Oh, wow. So,
Yes.
so there's a lot of culture, that I,
Yeah.
I thought I would be losing, and so yeah, I had to kind of realign coming here and being in grade 7.
It must have been culture shock though, because you didn't even land in Toronto.
No,
I think you guys landed in Kitchener, right? You guys came
exactly.
to Kitchener.
Yeah,
And what
and
was that culture shock like?
well, the thing is, I didn't really know anything until a little later about, why is everyone going to Toronto? I'm like, what's up with Kitchener? And then, it was culture shock, and I remember, the very first day was meeting, going to the school, and, everyone's on the schoolyard, and there was this young black guy there. His name was Lloyd Masters. And I came over to him and said, "Hey, Lloyd, how are you? I said, my name's Anthony." And
With your little British accent, yeah.
With my little accent, "Yeah, my name's Anthony." And he's just like, I said, "Oh, okay, great." The one brother in the whole field has just dissed me. And, and I was doing everything wrong. I wasn't wearing the right, style of clothes and everything else. But later, rest in peace, Lloydie. We became good friends, and so that helped me kind of transition. But I was still fighting it. I didn't want to stand up for the national anthem. I was a rebel, a bad boy. Yeah, sure. And I was to shut down and denounce the fact that I'm here, and I finally kind of got it when I probably transitioned a little bit better to high school. But grade 7 and 8 were, I think grade 7 and 8 for me was just more of an understanding of getting into the acting bug, and that I had a personality, like a bigger personality. So,
was there a pipeline of people coming from England to Kitchener? Because I know the boxer Lennox Lewis was out there.
Right.
We go out there and play ball against Cameron Heights in these different places, and there was like a little expat community of West Indians, but they seem to all have come from England.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. Messenger, a couple of guys, some for Jamaica.
Oh, the Messenger, the reggae band, yeah.
Messenger, the reggae band. There was definitely a few. There was a real strong, presence of people from the UK, that came over and landed in Kitchener, and and that's pretty well who you kind of moved with, like you kind of moved with that little pocket, and you either from Jamaica or they came from the UK, but at the same time, it was still West Indians in the UK, so you still felt like you were like a yard man.
But and the music I would guess wouldn't be that different from what you were listening to there and what you guys were listening to here.
Exactly. The music, it was all about the music, to the point that, once you got, to high school and there were basement parties, it was, pure music and, pure rub-a-dub and all that kind of things.
How did you get your start at MuchMusic? I'm pretty sure you guys took the school route. You went to school, you studied. Like, how did you get?
Well, I went to Mohawk College. I studied television broadcasting.
A great broadcasting program. Lots of people went through that program.
I took TV broadcasting. I studied for 3 years, and and then I was told by the director of the program, you're not going to get a job here, in the Toronto market. You're going to have to go. Out west. And I'm like, look, man, at that time I had braids. Like, I'm going to take myself to Lethbridge, like, no disrespect, Lethbridge, Alberta, but I wasn't going to be the, 1 or 2, 3, maybe 5 other brothers.
Back then you would have stood out. Maybe not so much now, but you would have stood out back then.
Back then I definitely would have stood out. And I said, there's no way. So in my last year, we had a co-op, and so I was just looking at Toronto. And I ended up looking at Omni, which is now Omni, but MTV, which is the multilingual channel 47.
Yeah, CFMT, I think we used to call it.
CFMT, there you go. And Daniel Corderone used to host a show called Black World.
Funny, I was on that show playing
Steel Band
when I was in public school. They came up to Jada Fish and shout. And the host, I'm trying to remember, the female host too was Carter. Linda Carter was the female host.
That's right. Yeah, I
remember that show. We're short our age, buddy, but continue. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. No. I mean, but I actually worked in operations. So I got a job as videotape operator. So I would load all the films and play back all the movies, and everything was played on cassette and big reel, big 35 mil reels of movies, Italian movies. So that was my job. And then I kept bugging Daniel Cotto and I said, look, I want to help out in Black World. And man, this guy was hard, man. He's like, no, he would just be he was tough with me and rude. And at one point, I'm like, I said to him, I said, hey, look, man, I'm offering you free service, man. And I'm sorry I'm being a little bit out of line here, but you're really upsetting me. And I have something to offer and help, and this is what you're doing. So if you want to, and I went off on this guy, and then I walked away, and then he came back to me and he said, okay, yeah, I'm going to let you. I'm going to let you go out and do to interview up and coming Black youth. I'm like, no, I didn't want to be on camera. I just wanted to help, pick up some paper, assist the producers, whatever. And he said, no, this is what you're going to do. So I was interviewing young up and coming, brothers and sisters, at the time. I remember there was a track and field guy, Llewellyn, I think his last name, Llewellyn. There was a fashion model. There was Kevin Pugh, who was in the National Ballet, and so I was doing this gig. And then the crazy thing was, was that when I went to back to Kitchener, like I was like a little mini star, I'd go to the club. I go to the West Indian Club.
What was he on Black World?
Black World, because every Black person was watching Black World.
Dude, we all watched that show because we got that little half hour on the Saturday. That's all we got. So we'd all tune in to watch it. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and I ended up there. And then 1984, was when Much was starting, and my brother reached out to me and said, hey, look, there's a job as a VTR operator for this new network called MuchMusic. Come on over, which is in the same, as same building as Citytv. And I'm like, look, I love you, Baz, my older brother, but I don't know if I really want to work around you. You know what I mean? You're my older brother. I think we should have our own
watching
space.
You at work all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It was, you didn't press that button, that button right. I'm like, oh. So anyway, I went for the job. Took the job, and because I was making at one point like 12.5, or I think I was up to 13,000 at Channel 47. As a tape operator. Then I was
big money back then, Bridget.
And then I went up to 17.5 at MuchMusic. So I was making big dollars. So I started out playing back the music videos on Much.
And I remember when I got there, you were still doing a lot of stuff behind the camera. I think you were still shooting, doing different things. So how do you make that transition then to get the mix and Rap City developed and created? Because I know that, you were the brains behind that. You were back there behind the camera, but the brain was churning. Like, I got some ideas, man. I need to fill a void in this Canadian music scene.
Well, there was an opportunity for a show, and I'd been doing other things like, Christopher Ward, one of the VJs. He was doing all these, fun little bits, and so I was a frustrated actor.
Include you in those.
So yeah, I'd be included. So I was a frustrated actor, so I would be doing those little bits. But as you said, my brain was turning. My wife's brain, as you know, Paula, her wife was turning even more than mine. So there's one point I went to her. I said, there's an opportunity to create, a show, because MuchMusic is having a slot for a dance show, which is going to be 3 hours. The idea, I think, at the time was that they wanted to do something along the lines of Electric Circus. And and I said to her, I said, look, I've got this idea. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of wacky. I don't know if you're going to go for it. But she said, well, what is it? I said, I want you to be the keyboard sampler for this demo, this pilot that I'm going to shoot for this show. And I said, well, what do you mean? So I ended up getting a keyboard sampler, which is a Roland W30, and I got her to do the voice. And,
what did we call her? There was a name, wasn't there?
Roxy.
That's it, Roxy. Yes, Bridget, you're bringing back memories now. Yes.
I'm telling you, Roxy's more famous than me. But it's my platform tonight. Anyway, so I got the idea to create this. Like I didn't want to have a physical body, hosting with me. So it was a matter of I would load up these keyboard samples, and we do like 13 or 15 samples in a show. But the thing was, with the technology, you had to record the sample perfectly. So you couldn't just go back and delete the one.
No, live to tape, as they say.
Live to tape. So literally, sometimes we would start at midnight, and I'm not kidding. Sometimes 2, 3 in the morning, we'd finish recording these little bits. And so, so it'd be me, hosting a show, and I say, hey, what's going on? How's everybody feeling? Hope everyone's fine. Roxy, what are you saying today? Hey, T, I'm feeling fine. And who's our special guest today?
I remember that.
The one and only Dwight Drummond, CBC. And so,
cool.
so that was the whole premise of it. And I created the pilot, gave it to Moses Neimer, gave it to John Martin, who was the director of programming, and it literally sat with them for 6 months. And I'd done other things before because, I'd end up doing the MuchMusic Groove, which was the, this video, that myself and Gordon McWaters created. And we did this entire video, which was a major promotional video for MuchMusic at the time. So that was, to this day, it was a big push, the big commercial for them. And it was actually the first hip hop video in MuchMusic's library, which is kind of scary. It is crazy.
And when you say the first, I think back now, and there were so many firsts that, you were a part of. There were so many things, and we have to get through some of them. One of my favorite things about the show was how your interviewing of the artists and how they, I don't know, it just seemed like you were one of those interviewers that they liked you and they took to you, and you formed some really cool relationships. We have to talk about this particular interview. What was the energy like during the last televised interview with Tupac?
That was
history, right?
Yeah, it is history, and
that is
every
history.
year,
That's big history.
Yeah, and every year, the marking, the mark of his anniversary and of his death. It's like all of a sudden, people just bombard me and hit me up, and but we were at MuchMusic. We were there to cover the MTV Awards, and after the awards, there was a huge MTV party outside one of the parks. And myself and producer at the time, Tanya Notchev, and Jay, one of the cameramen, so we were there, and typical MuchMusic, you go there and people think you're there with a crew of like 50 people. There's just 3 of you. So we get there and we're in this park, and the place is set up like it's just food stations over here. It's Italian over here. It's Chinese over here. It's just food everywhere, and it's just a big spread. But there was already rumblings there. There's a lot of tension in the park because apparently there was the cops came. There was reports, and there was shots went off earlier. So it was tense. There was a lot of nerves. There was a lot of nervous energy going around. And at that time, obviously, Death Row was massive on the West Coast.
Suge was big, man. Yeah,
Suge was big, and so was Tupac. So this was their answer that they wanted to come to the East and create Death Row East. So they had all these guys in these white T-shirts, Death Row East, and they had these signs, and they're holding these signs up, Death Row East, Death Row East. And our producer, Tanya, spots Suge and Tupac. She goes, "Hey, there's Suge, there's Tupac." And I'm like, "Oh," and I said, "Oh, that's great." And she said, "Let's go over and interview them." I said, "Oh, hold on a second. I think you're moving a little too fast over there. You might want to slow down." And she said, "Oh no, this is good. We should go over there and go interview." I'm like, "I don't know about that." So, she said, "Well, let's go over." So we go over there. We got camera rolling, and which was a typical thing of MuchMusic camera.
Oh, you press record before you start talking.
Press record before you start talking. So we're just recording, and we're going over, and so we get closer, and Suge is like, you think Suge is about 6'6", 6'7". He's actually
a big man.
He's a big man.
He's at Miami. He's a big man.
He's 6'2", but he's a wide, big, strong, and his presence is huge. And Tupac, he's there. He's full of presence. He's not a big dude, but he's got. So we get there, and we're getting closer, and so I'm like, so she's like, Tanya's like, "Well, T, you go over and talk to her." I said, "Oh no." So I push her. She goes forward. And
you go break the ice. Yeah.
She goes,
"They won't hurt you."
And she goes, "Hey, Mr. Suge, we're from MuchMusic in Canada. Do you think we can do an interview with you?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." And I'm like, "Oh, great. I'm not prepped. There's no, script. There's no questions.
But
so right off the bat,
the music, you live the music.
yeah, so you're there, and you just grab it. So I said, hey, Suge, hey Tupac, So the thing that I did, and some people still write about this today, and I said to them, okay, so introduce yourselves. So Suge goes, Suge Knight, and Tupac's like, man, why is this dude asking me? I'm Tupac Shakur, and he's like, and I know he's kind of pissed at me because he's Tupac Shakur, but
I'm supposed to know who I am, man.
Exactly, and I knew who he was, but this was just what we did, in broadcasting. So he introduced himself, and and I asked him about, so what do you think about Hammer, winning the best rap? And they're like, look, man, the man sold like 7 million records worldwide. We can't hate on him, so that's cool. And I said, Tupac, what's this about, this whole Death Row East? You believe in God? Yeah, why certainly. Well, and then he just went boom into this diatribe, and he went, chopped Nas, chopped everybody on the East Coast, and and it was just like, it was so powerful because it's someone who just from the start to finish, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end.
Like the way that man, his mind worked it was incredible.
Yeah. It was definitely incredible, and and I just looked at him at the end, just like, okay, wow. Great, and I asked him one question, but I felt like I asked him at least 5, and I'm like, wow, what a great interview, and but that was, and then come back to Toronto, and then only to find out that he'd been executed, and that was just
after.
Shortly after, and it's still to this day a very surreal moment for me, because it's like you're around somebody and you're around this figure, and his presence was larger than life. Like, I mean, he moved a certain. And interestingly enough, I'd seen him before at the Soul Train Music Awards party at the House of Blues in LA, and he was there, and that night he was there, and he's standing there, and he's got these 2 models on either side of him, and he's in this kind of a Gatsby suit and hat and everything. He's kind of holding these 2 models, and the models are towering him. So, but he's got these 2 models, and then Suge Knight is holding on to Method Man, who is totally wasted, and they're kind of dragging him. And Tupac's like, "Come on, man, let's get yourself together," and he's kind of like bouncing out with these models, but the thing was, I just stood there and I just looked at him. I never said anything to him. I just watched him. Just his magnet. His magnet.
I really think he was going to be a star. Man. I think he was a triple threat because he could act.
Yeah.
He could rap. He had it all, man. And it was it was such a sad loss. But it's just incredible. And I know, T, it just seems so normal for you, but you're throwing around these names like, this was happening to everybody at this time. Yeah, I was at this place. I saw Suge. I went over and talked to Tupac. I didn't Method Man was all like, when you look back now at the proximity you had, not only in your own studio, but getting to travel and really seeing, this burgeoning hip hop scene, because you were covering it, I feel like, as it went from our little thing off to the side where just we knew hip hop and we followed, and our cousins would come from New York with these records, to this music becoming mainstream and everybody in the world. And Tupac was one of those people who really took it and put it mainstream and brought it to the world.
You're right. I think one of the biggest transitions for me was actually going from MuchMusic to MuchMusic, X-Tendamix to Demix.
X-Tendamix, yeah.
Yeah, and so at that time, my wife said to me, look, because it was always this kind of running battle with Electric Circus, because they kept playing, and having all these reggae artists come and perform, and but yet they were playing primarily dance music. Yes. And it got to a point.
It was a strange mix. I was a cameraman on that show. It was a strange mix.
It was a strange mix. And then there's a point where my wife said, "Look, I want you to just change it up, change the mix, change the programming, and make it all R&B, hip hop. Just do it. Don't play any more dance." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" Comes to find out
that to Miss Paula again, Bridget.
That's it. I mean, she made that transition and saw. She said, "Look, the music is going to change. It's gonna become kind of a hip hop based or black music based." And she was right. And then when we started Jamaica, and we made the transition. It was something where we ended up programming obviously the music, but yet the incredible thing was all the labels were like having Casey and Georgia come by, Mary J. Blige was coming
Yes.
by, Genuine was coming by,
Yes.
Debret.
I remember when Sony brought Genuine, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like all of the labels, this was the day when, a label would be bringing Genuine, but there's an after party. There's they're coming to do promotion, but there's going to be a mini concert, and and it'd be at a club. So it was a magical time because I remember our very first one. We also created the Mix in Durand, which was a live concert, which was similar to what we had with the Intimate Interactives. But one of the things I complained about was it's all white artists. Like why can't we have why can't we have some of the black artists? Well, it's just the budget and the this and that. And so we created the Mix in Durand, and the very first one was Erykah Badu, and this was before. Yeah, you were there. Yeah, this was before she broke. She came there with her candles and everything else, and but it was a time also that I recognized later probably was that it was a time for us. It was a time for when I opened up the Vibe line and you had to call to reserve to come down to the studio, that I would see these young brothers and sisters coming in.
The receptionist hated you, man, because the phone would blow up.
Yeah, I know.
But as I said before, at the time, it was only really you kind of bringing these artists to us in that way. Do you have some more memorable interviews? I don't know if they were coming to you, but I always tell the story of I saw Destiny's Child once walking down the hallway. It was early Destiny's Child, right? I'm coming out of the washroom, and Beyonce and Kelly, they're right in front of me, and I froze, guy. I was just walking back into the newsroom. I was just like, and Beyonce's like, "You okay? Are you okay?" The Destiny, and they're like, "Oh, you're so cute," and they keep walking down towards MuchMusic, and I'm like, to see all these people in the building, even before, as you said, you talked to Erykah Badu before she was a major star. Right. What are some of the most memorable interviews that you had?
Wow, I mean, there's a lot.
I know there's a lot, and it'll be difficult.
There's a lot for different
everybody.
For different reasons. I mean, Barry White was definitely a big one.
Yes.
Destiny's Child, Lauryn Hill, Mary J. Blige, Sade.
Wow.
Eminem.
Yes.
I
think everybody at the time.
Yeah, I mean,
anybody who was anybody.
Yeah, anybody was anybody that that I got to. And the thing was for me, and still is, I don't want to hang out with you. You know what I mean? Like when I'm done with the interview, I'm finished. Like we're done. I had a great interview. I just want you to understand that one, I've done my due diligence. I want you to leave with a level of respect. On understanding that.
Did his homework before he talked to me. There's nothing people hate more than talking to somebody who doesn't know their story or why they're being interviewed.
Exactly, and that stands with me today. Even just doing the stuff that I'm doing with RX Music, it's a matter of like I want you to still leave virtually and just understand that. Wow, man, this guy, as somebody said to me the other day, man, that was such an insightful interview that you did with me. I said, yeah, and that was very important for me because like I wanted to leave my stamp, But I remember when Mary J. Blige came in. And she's doing an Intimate Interactive, and the record label saying, "Oh, come down, Mary wants you to come down and have have dinner just down the street on Peter Street." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm working." And they're like, "What? What do you mean?" Mary's asking, and I just I never wanted to cross
that line,
that line,
because it'll be difficult. And the thing was, you were a music journalist.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's a difference there, right?
Yeah, and I never really gave myself that title, but I guess I stuck with it.
But if you look at the word,
you
look at, I mean, it's on record. It's not like you can deny it. The journalism is there, and it was for a long time. Yeah. We have to talk about Lauryn Hill because I remember that parking lot. I remember how excited we were when Lauryn Hill was coming to perform on your last day on air. A lot of people want to know, did it happen by chance? Was it by design? I know the answer, but people want to know, was it by design?
It was a long time coming. Like there's a point I knew I was leaving MuchMusic. I wanted to have a goodbye Blackout. I wanted A-list artist, and at the time, I mean, it's a long story. I'm gonna condense it, but we ended up having. Well, first of all, my connection with Lauren was always a positive one. I interviewed her when she was actually pregnant with Zion.
Zion?
And she was pregnant with Zion. And so I flew to New York. I interviewed her there. We had a great conversation.
I remember that was a classic interview. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she didn't talk to a lot of people, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
She didn't give a lot of those interviews. She just didn't. So you guys had a special connection that way where she respected you and wanted you. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had that chat, we had that conversation. So it kind of started from there. And then, so when it came down that I knew I was actually leaving MuchMusic, and I definitely wanted to have all the Canadian icons in the house. Obviously, Cardi, Mishi, Maestro, all those guys in the house, Rascals, all those guys. I wanted them all. I wanted them all there. But when we actually reached out to, we're trying to get someone, and then it was interesting because KDN. She was working with, one of the Black students organizations of one of the universities, and KDN was trying to she had a connection with Lauryn Hill, and she was trying to get her to come and perform, for this event. And then KDN said to me, she said, "Look, I know you're trying to get an artist. I think Lauryn would be great. She have a connection with her, but Lauryn only wants to perform outside. She does not want to perform.
We're at the parking lot. We're setting that up.
So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So I'm outside. Yeah. So we're gonna.
No problem.
No problem. We're there. And she said, well, here's the contacts. So we went back and forth with Lauryn. It got to a point that she had said yes, and we had got in touch with a manager who was doing all the liaison. And at that time it was Pedro Baptiste, who was my social producer. And she was, we're all kind of trying to align this all up. And then we finally ended up getting to, my wife and I went to Sumfest to come to cover Reggae Sumfest. So we're there, and, I hadn't heard from Lauryn in weeks. We ended up getting a call. We just came back from Sumfest. Now, Sumfest, as you know, runs late. So dance hall next.
It's what replaced Reggae Sunsplash, for those who don't know. Yeah.
Sumfest we ended up coming back to the hotel. It had to be about 6, 7 in the morning. We're exhausted.
Virgin, I'm vexed when Beanie Man hitting the stage at 7 a.m. I'm eating Ackee and Saltfish, and this man is just hitting the stage, and I've been there since midnight. But anyway, go ahead.
No, that's exactly it. So we end up getting back here to the hotel. The phone rings, and it's Margaret who does all our bookings and all the liaison between the record labels. And she said, Lauryn Hill's trying to get in touch with you. And I'm like, okay, and she's called here. She wants to get in touch with you. And so I said, Paul, honey, it's, I've got to call Lauryn Hill. Like, I know you're tired, and she's like, just keep it down. I said, okay. But it's Lauryn Hill. But I said, I'll keep it quiet. Man, I was on the phone with Lauryn for over 2 hours.
Wow.
And we were just talking about, she said, I'm tired of all these people. I have 70 people just eating off of me, and I got rid of everybody. I'm tired of all this music. I'm not playing now. I'm not going to play any of my music, anymore. And she was telling me all this stuff. And the biggest thing, one of the reasons what she wanted to do was she wanted to perform at Sumfest, and the organizers didn't want her to perform because she wasn't going to perform her hits. Oh. So then because she was doing this acoustic, like
and she put out an acoustic album at the time.
Right? And she was not performing the hits. And I said to her then, I said, look, can you still come? Do you still want to come and do the performance for my group by Blackout? She said, I will come, but I don't want MuchMusic to announce that I'm coming. I don't want any publicity surrounding it, but I will be there. And I was like, wow, okay. And I came back, and the first thing, everybody wants to know is, okay, can we announce Lauryn's going to be? I said, no, if you announce it, it's shut down.
You're not coming.
And they're like, what are you? And to me, it was a bit of a payback too, because I felt sweet. I had this in my back pocket.
Come on, man.
And I'm like, okay, yeah. Lauryn coming. She's coming from me. Yeah. So then we ended up picking her up at the Toronto Pearson. Pedal and I, we waited, and my son Khalif, who was I think around it might have been around 8 or so around that time. He was there, and he had been with me the entire day. He's just off the rails. He had so much energy. He's tired, but
boy Khalif, who's in Turkey right now, balling out of control.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Thank you. So so Lauryn arrives. And she comes off. She's holding Zion and Selah. Her 2 kids in either side, and Rohan's in behind her, and she's walking, and she's pregnant at the time too. She was like 6 months pregnant.
Wow! Yeah, I remember her being pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah. So she arrives, and we connected, and she said, hi. There was no big exchange. She knew why she was there. I knew why she was there, and. you know.
But
And
she brought young Mr. Marley with her. Was he? Maybe he was in the park. I didn't even realize he was around. Man.
Yeah, he was around, and that night when she arrived, because she didn't get, you know, there it's like it was around 10 something, 11 or something, and Khalifa and Zion were there running around, ramping, and you know, just hanging out as kids do. And so you know, we
these
got
are great stories, man.
Yeah,
I know you and Dalton put out a book, man, but these are some great stories, T. Thank you for sharing so much.
No worries.
This next question, I don't know if people remember the Much Dance compilations.
Right.
Remember the Much Dance compilation? And I know that you were involved in creating these, no?
Well,
and did you do one that received a diamond plaque?
Yes.
So tell us about how that came.
The interesting thing is, I mean, when people go diamond, what does that mean? That means it sold 1 million copies.
So not gold. Diamond's number. It goes gold, platinum, diamond, right?
Yeah, it goes gold.
Or is it diamond, platinum? I can't remember.
And then like 7 times platinum, 8 times platinum, 9 times platinum. And the thing was, I have all of those plaques leading up to it. And what's interesting about the whole X-Tendamix series was, you know, they tagged my show X-Tendamix at the time. You know, I connected it with the show because the show right out of the box was call it what it was. It was a hit. And
of course, guy.
we had a sponsor right off the bat with Mars Bar. And so I already knew that because I already went to somebody, because that was very important for young people. Don't just see if you're dealing with people on the first floor, make sure you know what's going on the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
In the executive offices upstairs.
Understand what's going on. So I ended up just speaking to someone, you know, who was in the marketing, and he said, look, you know, your show is doing incredibly well, and there's going to be a sponsor for Mars Bar. So we already had that connection, and obviously the station was making a lot of money off of that. And then when the compilation said, hey, we got this little compilation for it's going to be with Quality Records and MuchMusic, and it's this dance compilation, because obviously compilations were big at the time. So it jumped out of the gate. The very first one, I think, was 92, and it jumped out, and it was just, you know, it was popular. Yeah. But I was more so, I didn't really deal with the programming, you know, the actual programming of the actual compilation. I was more the PR person. I was the front.
Oh, they're pushing it.
I was pushing it, and so we did like these hyped commercials all the time, and you know, but at the same time, I'm not stupid. I did try to get a little piece off of the record. I'm saying, can I get a little piece? And everybody fought me. Like, they're going, no, you can't. You can't. You're just a VJ. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a VJ, but I'm also Mark.
I'm the reason this is doing this well.
Yeah. I'm pushing this. I'm doing, and so they end up saying to me, you know what? We tried to create it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Wife is on the side. You know, so one of the things that we did try to do was we tried to create a record, like, you know, a song to put on the compilation, so we get a little change off of that.
Of course.
And so, you know, the thing was, it just kept climbing. It got bigger and bigger. And a friend of mine who works for VP Records in New York said, look, man, get your face on the inside of the record in the cassette, you know, take a picture, put it. And I was like, he goes, at least it will be branded as this is you and this is yours. You. And so, you know, I think I got to big up my brethren, Aaron Talbot, because, you know, it was a very smart idea, because there was no Instagram back then, and there was no, you know, Twitter and like Twitch and Itch and all these things here. There's not all these marketing things. You know, we were just going, you know, just going with it.
It was brand new, yeah.
It was all
Kids
brand
call
new.
it playlists now, Tony, but that was a compilation back then that you put, just like VP Records every year. That's one of the CDs I think you used to give me too, because VP would put out all the top dancehall songs for the year. Every year they do that, and I remember you used to hook a young brother up on that. So those are big things, man. Those are big.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they've stood the test of time, and I think what happens is, you know, it's like now people, you know, it's a part of their, it's a part of their formative years.
Yeah, man, nostalgia, how they grew up in this town. We think about you. You're part of a lot of people coming up in this town, in this country, I should say. This next question, I really like it. The team at Amplify put this together. You know, they say, why do you feel much should have been returned back to Moses Naimer? And I always tell people that one thing about Moses, man, Moses is loyal to his people. And he made what other stations looked at us as saying that's a negative thing. Moses made it a positive, you know, like I grew up in public housing. I was still living in Jane and Finch when I was there. And there was nobody else for public housing, like on TV doing these things, you know. In Canada, I had a little earring. I remember Moses said to me, he goes, that's an asset. They're going into your communities, covering these stories. Why can't somebody from the community cover those stories, right? And then when I went to take out the earring when I was going on air, he's like, do you wear it when you go around in real life? Like, yes. He goes, why would you take it off when you go on TV? Like the man just seemed, and the motto of the building, T, was everybody welcome, everybody belongs.
Yeah.
This was way before George Floyd. It didn't take something like that for him to figure that out back then. So the question to you is, and I think I know the answer, why do you feel much should have been returned back to Moses?
I think, at the time, and, I'm probably even now, I think there's, MuchMusic wasn't just about music videos. It was about culture. It was about, an understanding of, we covered politics. We covered, there was fashion that was covered, obviously music that was covered. But, the times of the day were all covered, so what's Black Lives Matter, all of that would have been voiced, through MuchMusic. And I think it's interesting because I think, there's a lot of removal for a lot of young cats who just, everything is just so accessible through their phone. But, now, but, back then it was a matter of that, you had to go and say, hey, well, you know what, there's a special show going to be on, on MuchMusic, because I even created a show that was called The Real Deal, which was like a youth issues talk show. And we dealt with the time. You do
special-ish town hall type stories. Exactly. Oh, yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
About the same issues that 3 decades later, we're still doing town halls and talking about.
Exactly. So, we did have that, we had that platform, and, and I think it's very important. So I think there's also, it's that connection with music and youth. And I think I think sometimes having someone, that they can not guide them, but, that they can look at and, kind of respect what that person is saying and have that connection. I think it's, it's almost like that person legitimizes, like, hey, this is coming through here. Like, this artist put out this, and this is what's happening here. And so I think that's what's very, very important and still missed. I think it's still missed today. And Moses Naim is a creative guy.
I think you were a guide. Like when you look back, you were the tastemaker. You were picking and choosing some of the things. And you picked great because, we look back now and you had your nose right there and you knew what was going on. But you were holding our hand and guiding us through this music that, was still marginalized at the time, right? And you put it on a mainstream channel for all of Canada to see. So when you mentioned Lethbridge earlier, there was some little indigenous kid in Lethbridge going, yo, look at that. And now we got rappers out that way too, because from back then, that's the only way they were going to get that music. That music wasn't going to reach some of our communities. Tell us about your syndicated radio program, Wall of Sound.
The Wall of Sound.
You're still at it.
Yeah. The Wall of Sound. I mean, it was created because at the time there was no, there's no outlet for Black music, commercially. And, this is before, Flow, this is before G98. There wasn't an opportunity, especially, if you went, Western Canada, Eastern Canada, there was nothing out there. So it was, we, myself, my wife again, came in there, to kind of help me out on that. And DC Dave Campbell,
Dave Campbell,
DJ Dave Campbell, he was pivotal as well. He was here, he was there. And so we created this, this syndicated program, that we're trying to obviously syndicate. And the biggest challenge was, dealing with, program directors who were, these white rock and roll program directors, and you go to them.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what is this? Yeah, sounds great.
Maybe New York or LA or something.
Yeah, this can't happen here in Canada. Sure enough, 3 or 4 years later, they had to play it because they couldn't stop the Black music, that was being pushed, right across. Because as we know now, call it what it is. I mean, Black music is still and continues to dominate the charts. So, so weekly we record the show. I bought all this recording equipment, record the show from my house. And Dave Ramsahoy was my engineer. I don't know if you remember Dave Ramsahoy, but
I remember that name,
yeah, Dave Ramsahoy. He was an engineer who rest in peace. He came to my house and we recorded this show. And
that's great.
And the thing, and the cool thing was I got to be around the artist still. So I would get all these drops, and drops were like gold back in the day. So.
Oh yeah, when you say a drop, you have to explain to people what they mean.
Oh well, a drop would be like an ID, So
Yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
like
Oh, this is
Beyonce
so and
goes,
so. I'm hanging
yeah,
with
this is hey, what's up? This is you're listening to the Wall of Sound with Master T and DJ Dave Campbell, and this is Bobby Brown.
So, I think Bobby passed through too. Did they? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, Bobby.
I remember that.
Bobby came on the show and he kept playing with Roxy, kept pressing Roxy. He goes, man, this is crazy. I love this sampler. He goes like, I want the sampler. He goes and
I do remember.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say also, what's his name came through too, because I keep forgetting all the incredible artists that you brought. I remember when Snoop came through too, and the whole place was just hazy and smoky. And we're like, what is going on in MuchMusic? Why is it so smoky in MuchMusic today? Before that Trudeau was illegal, Snoop was around.
Oh, Snoop was, yeah. Oh, yeah. Snoop definitely would. I remember waiting for him in New York at a record label, and he arrives and he ordered a bunch of chicken wings, and he was like an hour late, and it was like you said, it was like a cloud of smoke just covered the whole, just came through the whole building. Yeah, but he did eating chicken wings.
For the past couple of years, you of course have been working with RX Music. For those who follow you on Instagram, if you don't follow him, you should be following him, but you get to see a lot of that stuff on Instagram. How did that come about, and what do you like about RX?
I was I started there on this job as a music consultant, and I still had the passion for music. And my wife was saying, look, you need to be out, because we were working independently. And I like being around people. Just I like that kind of connection. So I went there, and Gina, who's the CEO of the company, she said, look, I think this would be good for you. I think it'd be okay for you as a music consultant. So I did that for like about a year and a half. But then I realized that they service some of the biggest companies around, like Marriott Hotel, they do Hard Rocks, the Cheesecake Factory, and they provide the programming and content, custom music programming for these locations. And that's primarily what they do right through the world in North America.
That's big business.
Yeah, so it's big business. So I started doing that, and then I said to Paul, I said, I think there's like a little bit of a back end here. Like they have that foundation, but I think I have a little bit of juice and a little bit of legacy left where I could do interviews and for RX Music. So we pitched the idea to Gina, and we ended up doing interviews remotely, like location interviews with different artists that came to town. Then we ended up doing interviews when the office moved. Now we're at Dufferin and Lawrence, and we ended up doing interviews there and having artists come to our location. Come in, do a sit-down interview and performance. And now we're on virtually. But what I like about it is the fact that, no matter how old the artist is, again, it comes down to when I'm done with, I'm very intense with with my research. If the interview is on a Wednesday, I'm researching from last Wednesday and picking up bits of information. And I think it's interesting to just talk to a new generation of artists, and especially during these times, during the pandemic times, of how how they're all dealing with being artists. Through
it's a difficult time in music.
Difficult
right
time,
now.
Yeah, and all the mental challenges, that through their mental health that a lot of these artists are dealing with and have been open, to discuss and share with us. So, I'm really enjoying it. It's gratifying to see another generation of artists. And and especially, like I said, when they leave, they're like, I might not have known who Master T was, but
now I do.
Now I know who this
your parents do, though.
Well, the parents do, for sure.
Let's I can't let you go without us getting political a little bit, because I know that I've had a lot of these conversations with you and your brother offline about being a young Black man in society, what that means. What it means being somebody Black who's on air and representing a community, choice by not, you're up there, people look to you. So, do you feel the music industry has made any legitimate steps forward after making their pledges during the industry blackout? Because you've been working within this industry for decades now, and you've seen the ebb and flow.
Right.
What did you think about that whole time? And do you think that they have taken legitimate steps to deal with some of the issues?
I think I think the Blackout was one thing. I don't think it started there. I think obviously, and everyone knows, it was the death of George Floyd that really, really understood the fact that, we are dealing with, this has been going on for years. And, and the fact that to visually, see this man have his life taken away from him, like we mean nothing, really impacted a lot of people. I think the music industry is now, even when I did a fireside chat with Cardi for Universal, and they have a new kind of organization, obviously Advanced Music. It's a new organization. So, it saddens me that it has to take a man being killed, to make these changes
on camera
because now, it's interesting. I was the most popular black man for Black History Month. I was being invited to places where, wow, where'd this come from? I know I'm black, but like major corporations, and the thing was, with some of them, I'd say, well, look, you weren't interested in talking to black people before this, and now they've set up, different committees and they're different factions within there, and I really and truly just hope it gives us more of a voice. I definitely see some change happening. I think, with Universal, Big C being hired over there, as the
shout out to Big C.
Yeah, shout out to Big C.
A lot. I think I met him for the first time, in your studio, bringing artists down to the show. Yeah. Yeah,
and now he got a
now he's a boss.
A legitimate,
and he worked, and we watched him climb
watch him grow. And I think and what baffles me is, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that we're going to actually bring you some knowledge? Give you some insight? So those kind of things, still hurt me. Yeah, because I can't understand why, and it does frustrate me at times because is this a move because of George Floyd, or do you really and truly care about diversity, through race and gender? Like, do you really care, or is just the fact that now if you avoid it, you can be called out. You're gonna be called out, and nobody's gonna step back. Like now they can sit on their phone, they can do it on Instagram, they can do wherever they want to put it out there and call you out. And I think for a lot of the industries now, I think the next few years are going to be telling. I look at even the broadcasters. Look at you, CBC. CBC now has on the radio has a black radio show.
Yeah, music show.
A black music show. Like
driving home. Yeah,
driving home. Did it take 100 years for that to happen? Come on. This is to me this is ridiculous. To me it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? And that's why
it is when you think about something, especially with so many of us within this music industry. And but I think with the new CBC show, a lot of those artists come from different parts of this country, and I think to your kind of pops to that, man, because you were the one who was sending that music out there back in the day. You know what I mean? You were probably some of their parents heard you and got into this music. And I think, when I hear an R&B singer from Edmonton, I'm like, I wonder, what I mean? That those seeds were planted a long time ago, and the seed is growing now to be picked. Is there a person that you're not, or project that you're not affiliated with, that has made a big impact on you?
Is there a person, sir?
They said, is there a project, or is there a person or somebody that you feel had a big impact on you?
Oh, big impact. I think definitely, Daniel Corderone in the initial stages. Shout out to him at Channel 47. Moses Neimer,
for a lot of us.
For a lot of us. He was somebody that I actually went to his office a lot of times. And
he had time for you, where a lot of bosses may not have time.
Oh yeah, he would sit down and have a chat with me. And you know what? As through this legacy, and you would know exactly what I'm talking about. My wife, she has, continued to impact my life, and and certain decisions that they just kind of roll off her head. I'll be stressing it out. She's like, oh, blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, okay, but I need another week to really stress myself out on it. Don't. So she's been important, and my family. My mom you know, she's
Shout
still
out to
with
Mom,
me,
yeah.
you know, and she'll still watch. Oh, I saw you on here. Oh, I love what you're doing over there with you know, with the reggae legends and the Jones and Jones. Oh, I love those
Yes,
kind of.
man.
She's
Yes.
still
You're
with me,
back to
man.
her music. She's happy.
Yeah,
Man.
you know, and I carry that legacy, and you know, you know, it's important to me, and obviously my kids. I mean, you know, they continue to impact me, you know, and I have to watch them grow and obviously learn from them, and because you know, to be in the whole Twitch world and Instagram world,
It's a different thing,
you know,
brother.
it's a different thing, and you got to talk to them. So you know,
Yeah.
they're definitely educating me.
Good.
So shout out to Kairal and Khalif. There you go.
To who?
Kairal and Khalif.
That's
Two
Khalif,
boys.
yes. Oh, I missed the names. Yes. You know, I really felt bad last year. Mr. Khalif didn't get to play in the tournament, but I saw him dunk on somebody in Turkey the other day on Instagram. And I'm like, yo, he's still wrecking the rims, man.
Yeah.
And I know you got another one coming up too. So shout out to the family. I said that's one of the things that you also, as a mentor for me and setting an example, is the way you raised your family, the way you talk about your wife, the way you lived your life that way. I followed you and your brother, and it's kind of worked out for me, man. So you guys
no,
are
definitely. How's Kayla doing?
She's doing good, guys. She's fine. And once again, dude, I'm following in your footsteps again. And I got to tell the viewers this. I actually followed this man twice. So when he moved to like Trinity Bellwoods, I followed him over there, moved to Trinity Bellwoods. He moves to St. Clair West. Yo, I followed him. I feel like my whole career, man, I just been trailing you, T. What's the biggest challenge you faced in the industry?
The biggest challenge?
Challenge you faced in the industry, you think?
Sometimes stepping out of my own way. I think sometimes just pressuring my own self, you know, placing, you know, sometimes a high level of, you know, pressure on myself that I probably didn't need to, you know, but, you know, once I realized, you know, like I knew once I had that platform, I knew the platform, you know, in terms of having my show and being on MuchMusic, I knew it was bigger than me. I knew what it meant to be right across, you know, the country. I was never going to denounce, you know, that I'm a black man. I had dreads, and I was everything that probably, and I have a hair lip, cleft palate. You know, I was everything that, you know, probably shouldn't hit the TV airwaves in Canada. But you know, but I was given that ability to, you know, to kind of stand up there and to bring forth our culture and never shine away from our music and our people. You know, to the point that it as you said, you know, you go up there, all the other white VJs would leave the building, and you know their day's done after their shift. I'd walk out the building, hey Masati. If I went up to Eglinton, you know, Eglinton West. Masati, wow, now nice show there with Pinchers and Beanie there,
right?
Man. Wow. Oh yeah, you have to play more reggae videos, man. What about Gina?
They told me to tell you. Huh? Tell you have to play more video.
yeah, you know, so they were, you know, and the street, and I can call it the street, but the people were always have been like important, like, you know, because I would really truly listen to, you know, to what they had to say, you know, to give me the opportunity to go back and go, oh, okay, you know what, I'm going to try to do this, I'm going to try to play a little bit of this, so yeah, so you know, very, very, very important.
It is, man. What does black music mean and look like to you?
Well, I think black music today is changing. I think, you know, we can put black music as alternative. We can put black music as house music. We can put black music as reggae. We can put black music as, you know, many different genres of music. You know, it's just music, you know, and I think this generation, for a lot of these young cats, it's not about color, it's about music. Because you hear them, and you know they're putting out music, and I hear, you know, white people, you know, Asian, whoever listening to the music. And you know, I think, you know, back in our day, it was like, yeah, man, are you into disco? Or are you into rock and roll? You know, and it was like, you know, there was no in between.
At the school dances, we used to get like 2 songs.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
That's all we used to get.
2 songs. And, you know, and you knew the only good thing about rock and roll was, you know, Stairway to Heaven, because it was like a 7-minute song. And it'd be like,
we have Walk This Way with Run DMC, and that's your hip hop. That's what you got. You guys got Walk This Way. You don't need more.
So I think the music has come a long way. I think, you know, I guess when we can look at, you know, from Montreal, Kate Trinata, who just won, he's the first.
I love that guy. He's the best
Casey Neistat,
remixer, man. Yeah.
one of he got 2 Grammys. The first black to win the dance category.
Wow! Can you believe that, man?
Can you imagine?
Lord.
So I think there's definitely some of it it's not, it might not be my taste. I wish there was more of this or more of that. But at the same time, it's
all encompassing.
Yeah, it's all encompassing, and it's new times, new generation.
You say that, and I read an article, I think yesterday, about the burgeoning hip hop scene in Mongolia. There you go. I was like, all right, I didn't know they had it like that out there. Yes, man. We're gonna get a little personal here. They want to know, do you have any secret rituals that help you with your creativity and with your business? Is there something that you do to center yourself and
I always pray. If I'm doing an interview, I've always done that. I pray, and it's and it's usually, obviously the people that are here with me and the people that have left.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing, and and I visualize. It's interesting, yeah, and it's hard to describe, but I actually visualize the process, the interview. So if I ask that person a question, I hear the answer come back to me, and then I can formulate the next question. And so when I actually do it, it for me it just feels more natural. There's times now where I'll I still write down all my questions, and then I can actually put the pad down or whatever, and then just let's just talk. let's just have a conversation.
Because you've done your research enough that
I've done my research enough, and and I believe I've kind of like been there already. Just kind of having this discussion with you. It's like I looked at all those questions and I had to kind of go, okay, visualize them, think about them. But
so you know the answers.
Yeah, I know the answers.
You have to know. That's the important thing of being on TV. You have to know what you're talking about. It's so important. I love this next question here from the team. What 3 songs or artists consistently have inspired you on your professional journey? So you can pick a song or artist or something. And I know you have a wide, eclectic taste and all kind of things, man. But there must be like 1, 2, or 3. Yeah,
obviously, I can say Bob definitely.
We all have to say
Bob, but with that also is Burning Spear. Burning Spear. My wife talks to me about this. Because I interviewed Burning Spear, and my wife said, like one point she saw the interview because she was editing it, and my eyes would go. She goes, "Why are your eyes twitching?" Because you're so nervous talking to Burning Spear. because to me it's just that foundation, it's that vibe.
Come on, man.
That I just, and I've seen him live so many times, and I was fortunate.
I've seen him once, and it stands the test of time.
Yeah, he does.
So that's true.
That's true. I think who else? Grover Washington, I love coming up in terms of jazz. My dad listens. My dad was a big jazz guy. So when I hear about David, David Sanborn and all this guy with the smooth jazz, the smooth jazz man, young people is Grover Washington. Grover Washington Jr.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, him.
I did a lot of jazz for you and your brother too.
Yeah, man, lots of jazz, and and house music.
Herbie Hancock, Watermelon Man, stuff. Yeah.
And I still love my house music. Still love my hip hop, and
you guys put me out to 10 City, and was it Inner Circle or Inner City?
Inner City, yeah.
Yeah, you guys put me onto those guys back in the day too.
Big fun.
Yeah, we didn't have that in Fitch, man, but we had that downtown on Queen Street.
Twilight Zone.
Right?
Don't get me started on Twilight Zone.
Yes, sir.
I'm a zoner.
A lot of time there. People are like, what are they talking about? Twilight Zone used to be a club that was an after-hours club that used to serve orange juice for breakfast in the morning as we're heading home.
That's it. I don't know what happened to them from midnight to whatever, but orange juice was in the morning.
I think Charles Caboth was behind that, and he's still doing clubs in our city. What's the one thing you don't like about the industry, you hate about the industry? We've got just a little bit of time left, so I want to get through this. But what are some of the things you don't like? One thing it says, one thing you love and one thing you hate about the industry.
I hate the fact that that we're a lot of times suppressed. That bothers me. That bothers me. The fact of we know we have to fight things, but there's a lot of young people that have been turned away from this industry just because there's just nowhere no way for them to to get in. And now they have the opportunities and avenues to create for themselves, which is good. And I think that's one of the things I do love is I love seeing the creativity. I love seeing young cats kind of build and grow and and create something new. Create a new legacy. Create a new outlet. That can tap into people, and it also it enables an older generation to go, oh, hold on a second, what's that person doing over there? Because now, like all the broadcasters, we were talking about streaming now. they weren't talking about streaming before, so they didn't care about streaming. Now they realize this is a whole
it's all about streaming.
It's all about streaming, because why are we going to go, pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for this television production? When we can, like an actual show that we're going to syndicate, and that's more money. So now, now it's about the streaming avenues. And like I love to see creativity, and I love to see young cats work. I can't take lazy people. I can't take the fact that you're.
That's another thing you taught me at a young age.
I can't take the fact that they think it's going to be given to them. It ain't nobody giving you nothing in this world. You got to work for it. And I don't care who you are, what you do. It could be generational, whatever. You still have to work. It takes a lot of work.
Professional. That's something you used to tell me when I was young. You have to be really. When you go into these interviews, how you carry yourself is important. All these things you guys used to tell me. We're going to end with this question.
All right.
You've been in it for decades now. It don't look like you're going to retire anytime soon. What are your goals for the next 5 years?
My goals, and I'm a guy that I hate predicting or pushing things. I really don't. I kind of like, I want to say live for the moment, but I can see that there's going to be an entity of Master T and Roxy. I'm going to put it out there. There's things that we are working on. That's all I'm gonna say.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah, there's things that we're definitely working on.
All right. I want to end with this then too, because you didn't really give me an answer there, but we're going to stay tuned for that.
Okay.
When you look now and you see the state of the music, do you just marvel? Like when you see what a Drake is doing, you see what a K-Tronada is doing, you see what Cardi's done, you see when you had this little music that you had to fight to get out to the masses, that you were the one who was pushing around the door, said, "No, man, people want to hear this. We got to put this on the air to give." Do you just marvel now that you see how your little corner that you took to try to make mainstream is now mainstream popular music? When I see my kids and their friends, no matter what they look like, they're listening to this music that you were pushing back then.
Yeah,
you just marvel. I knew something before everybody else.
Yeah, the thing is, for me, I think it's obviously I can't take full on credit. There's a shifting of the times and everything else, and people have to be ready. But there is a real strong sense of pride, because one of the things I did say, and I still say to this day, is hey, we're going to play some Canadian product. So I wanted people to identify with that. This artist is Canadian. This video is Canadian. That's being played right next to an American artist. So there's no separation. This is about the fact that look at what we are doing, and we're talking, back in the Maestro days, Shaw Claire days, Cardi days. These guys are pushing it out, and to watch them understand and to see what's happening now. Yeah, there's a huge sense of pride of this industry, and and what these young cats have managed to do and continue to do, because they're bringing the new dimensions of the music in terms of when they talk about team, these young cats now is like, you don't have to knock on the label's door. It's like, I got my camera guy. I've got the person who's producing my music. I've got an outlet. I can put it on Spotify. I can put my music out here, TikTok, wherever it is. I'm self-contained. Now, if you want me, Mr. Label, you better be prepared to take me and my team. And so there's a whole other new generation of how they're getting their music out and their creativity. So it's definitely positive to be around, to see and to talk to these young cats. Yeah.
The gatekeepers were there back then. Now the gatekeepers are gone because of the internet and setup. But I want to end by saying, T, you were the one who was the person in between the music and the gatekeepers. and you open that gate and then let the music flow through. And, you know, as a young man, I think I started there in 1920. It was such an exciting time to be part of that. I feel like I'm part of Canadiana, part of Canadian history, just watching you work and putting those shows together, because I think people don't really understand now that they have it everywhere, how ubiquitous it is. This was it, man.
Yeah.
This was our little spot on a Saturday, man, or on a Tuesday night or whatever. Like, this was our little spot that we had to go, we had to tune in, and we knew you were going to be serving us just what we wanted. And man, you know, we didn't know that it was Canadiana. We didn't know it was history back then. But now we know, and we appreciate you, man. We really appreciate you. And I want to thank Amplify for getting a chance to sit down and do this with you. It was really special. It was really special.
And I thank Advance, Amplify as well for the session. And once again, wifey said, "Get Dwight." I said, I
always love Paula. I used to come check her T's crib back in the day.
Get Dwight. Dwight, we're doing a good job. And I want to leave with this, because, I want to flip it, because, I'm proud of, I know you've come to me when you've made some, major decisions in your life and said, "Hey, T, what do you think?" Yeah. And you've come to her for advice. And I'm proud of what you continue to do. And and your greater understanding of this industry and what it takes, and and everything that you've worn on your shoulders for our community. I just want to thank you. Trust me, I want to thank you.
I learned from the best guy. I'm just trying to follow a great example that was set for me. I think the Amplify team, they want to jump back in here, man.
All right, cool.
We're gonna wrap this thing up. That was a lot of fun. I'm really glad I got to do this. So
no, thank you, Dwight. That was nice. It's blessed.